You might believe that you're too small or too distant to really make a difference. I want to show you why that is a myth. Let's begin in a place where consequences can be devastating. Let's begin with a single shark. It was late evening, and I was standing in shallow water. The tide was rushing out, right on schedule. The moon silently moving entire oceans from 250,000 miles away, setting the rhythm of life, the metronome of seagrass, the rise and fall of plankton. I was in the Bahamas, a place called Deep Creek, on an island called Eleuthera. I've snorkeled every inch of this blue and green and white speck, introduced middle schoolers to humpback whales in 30 feet of water, explored the sea floor inside a transparent submersible bubble. Lots has happened here. From intern to chief scientist, this is a place where I did a lot of growing up, personally and professionally. As I stood at the edge of Deep Creek, the sun dipped towards the horizon in a splash of color, oblivious to the growing pit in my stomach. Hours earlier, I had deployed fishing gear designed to catch, tag, and release sharks for research. And as intended, I caught a single Caribbean reef shark. When I discovered her on our line, she didn't have the energy to keep swimming or breathing. So, in an attempt to give her a fighting chance, our team swam for her, one by one on snorkel. Her skin was sandpaper against my palms as I pushed her forward. Water poured over her gills, willing oxygen into her bloodstream. I watched her eyelid rise less and less, flipping up to protect her eye from my touch, until it didn't move at all. Back on the shoreline, the tide kept pulling, the water no longer covering my ankles, and I stood there smelling shark on my hands. The smell of ammonia. To most, the smell of clean. In the pursuit of knowledge meant to support this animal's conservation, she died. Said more honestly, I accidentally killed her for that knowledge. At 22 years old, it felt unfair and wrong. It still does. If any tears fell that evening, they were hot with injustice, the kind that accompany a lesson I could never forget, one that shattered the comfortable myth we tell ourselves that our actions are insignificant. The next time I threaded a hook through a barracuda fillet and dropped it overboard, it carried new weight. I knew the price I might pay for each tiny contribution towards healthy oceans. Much, much later, after years of field research, I was here in Southern California. I swapped the rawness of a life spent collecting data, the thousands of nicks on my hands, the excitement of students as we left the dock, field lunches with far too much bread. I traded all that for hot coffee on demand, an ergonomic chair, and a second computer monitor. As a fisheries ecologist, I'm a lot like the ocean's accountant. And as I quantified connections in fisheries, like how many sharks die per ton of tuna, I began to live in the abstract. Each dead shark on a spreadsheet reduced to a sample size represented plainly by the letter N, faceless, caught by a boat I'd never seen. On the water, a single life meant everything. On the screen, hundreds of shark catches became tens of thousands with a single keystroke. Each dot on the map, a shark caught in a net or on a line. I couldn't feel the impact of my work, and worse, halfway through a cheap package of teriyaki tuna, I'd feel just an echo of responsibility before moving on with my day. Living in that familiar distance between knowing something and feeling it, where the connection is hidden just well enough to believe the myth and finish lunch. A course correction came in the most unexpected way. A random email one Monday morning asked if I'd like to find and photograph sharks in a global scavenger hunt on a shark reality TV show. It's probably no surprise I wasn't worried about the sharks. They're fine. They're usually fine. I was scared to death of reality TV. A scientist's greatest strength and vulnerability is their credibility, and I was being asked to hand mine over to strangers seeking profit. I took a leap of faith. I never imagined that that email would land me here, or that it would connect us to some of the world's most beautiful marine ecosystems, filmed through the lens of joy and fascination instead of fear. Each episode location cut the distance between me and the places and animals I seek to protect. I was seeing sharks all day, every day, like the old days, and bringing people on couches everywhere along for each dive. Building positive connections between people and sharks couldn't come at a better time. Every year, over 80 million sharks are killed for meat, for fins, and most of all, for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught as bycatch. Overfishing has driven over 1/3 of all sharks and their relatives closer to extinction, and reversing that trend is a difficult and complicated game. Reality TV was never meant to be a player on the board. But within a few weeks of being released, all the sharks reached #1 in Netflix family in over 60 countries. My friend sent me a video of his daughter Lainey running around the house screaming, "Hammerhead, 10 points," and then she'd do a little dance. Her younger brother Nico mimicked her every move, showing us that joy can scale just as fast as fear. Each place we dove also became a tool for dragging hidden connections into the light. 2 places in particular brought clarity: the Galapagos Islands and the Maldives. In Galapagos, at volcanic rocks called Darwin and Wolf, blissfully surrounded by Laney's 10-point hammerheads, we met the true kings and queens of our oceans. After calming our racing hearts, we slipped quietly into the water, and this mother and calf rocketed up from the depths off Darwin's Arch. They explored our team with whistles and clicks, allowing us aliens into their world and culture for a moment. I felt so small and present. I dreamed of swimming with orcas ever since seeing Free Willy as a kid. And when I got back to the boat, my eyes were saltier than the seawater, this time just overflowing with gratitude. Looking back, I worry. I study how our decisions ripple through food webs. And as our agricultural systems and industry exhale toxins and heavy metals like PCBs and mercury, they accumulate in the blood of nursing orcas and concentrate in their milk. Mothers unknowingly offload poison into the mouths of their eager young. You and I didn't create the poison out of malice. We've created it in the shadows of family dinner and here under lights powered by embers of coal. In each moment, unbeknownst to us, we are connected to even the orca. On the other side of the world, in the Maldives, past the famous, often pregnant tiger sharks patrolling the edge of a similar abyss, there's a common story playing out. 15 years after becoming a shark sanctuary, just long enough to see some conservation success, protections are being undone. The country has reopened deep-sea fishing for gulper sharks, decades after their population collapsed, but probably before they've fully recovered. These little sharks, much more than the tigers, actually embody what it is to be a shark. Of the over 550 species on Earth, most are less than a meter long. They're brown, and they live in the deep sea. They're not a wide open mouth from an old film. And although they live in darkness, hundreds of meters deep, they may be here, in this room, on your lips, in lip balm, in sunscreen, in products we pick up as an afterthought. The smallest of our daily decisions can cost these sharks their lives in the Indian Ocean, but to us, the purchase appears insignificant and clean. It appears odorless. The cosmetics industry hunts their liver oil on our behalf, moving sharks along shipping lanes instead of migratory pathways. Look, I've touched the places we think of as out of reach. My fingerprints were already all over them. There is no such thing as pristine. No ecosystem, no life in our known universe exists untouched by you and me. And this awareness has brought me a terrifying but liberating sense of agency. There's a line I keep coming back to from Aldo Leopold, the father of wildlife ecology. He said that a conservationist writes his signature not with a pen, but with an axe, humbly aware that with each stroke, he is writing his signature on the face of the land. We don't swing axes much anymore. Choices are our modern-day axes. I've spent my career searching for one enormous stroke to conserve sharks and protect our oceans all at once through research, teaching, policy, even reality TV. I haven't found it. I don't think it exists. What I have found, everywhere I've looked, is far more powerful. Small groups of people severing harmful connections and carving out better ones, one thoughtful stroke at a time. Instead of coal, sunlight. Instead of shark liver oil, olive oil. Instead of apathy, action. Conservation lives in the smallness right alongside us, all 8 billion axes. There are still times when I wonder if I've killed more sharks through my research than I've saved in fisheries. But I would rather smell ammonia on my hands and understand the weight of my choices than smell nothing at all and call them clean. The myth of insignificance tells us that because we are small, our actions don't matter. I agree. We are small, but insignificant, not a chance. Thank you.